Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de a question that I feel like I have some personal stakes in, and that's whether college is worth the cost. At least via my personal experience and what that means for the youths of today. Hey, hey, XenPuck here. Another day spent philosophizing rather than chipping away at the grind. Man, I feel so blessed that I can just chit-chat and make videos about whatever I want. And honestly, I'd give my education big props for getting me to where I am today, right? So today's question is one that I'm kind of passionate about because all I see these days are articles on what college majors are worth the investment and whether this idea that everybody should go to college is still going to pan out for the future as more and more graduates come out of into the workplace, essentially devaluating that old college degree, right? But first, I need to put a disclaimer on my own background. Me, all I've got is a BS from a borderline top 10 university in the country, okay? A private one at that. Yes, I did graduate with student loans. That was relatively significant at the time, but nowhere near the 100K plus figures that I hear today's graduates are laden with, right? But it was significant money to me at the time, and it was something I also paid back within 3 years of graduating, okay? And I certainly wasn't living the median income lifestyle, much less the high life, right? When I was a new graduate. So please keep that specificity in mind, right? Now I can break down the argument against college that I think is more prevalent these days, though with some exceptions. So I'll link one of the more common articles of this ilk in the description below, okay? Point number one. Go to college, pick a place that you can afford, okay? This seems like a no-brainer, but I feel like high school seniors on average don't really get this bit, right? Pick a school you and your family can actually afford. Obviously, at this point in life, most kids haven't had that much practice with money, right? But it's probably a very important conversation that you should force to have with your parents as to who can contribute how much. I mean, in my personal story, my family was relatively poor, right? So my school gave me a significant amount of grants because they wanted me to go there. Grants, for those of you who don't know, are money that you don't have to pay back. So please keep that in mind. If a school really wants you and you can barely afford it, you can negotiate with them. Or better yet, just pick a school that really helps you out financially. Okay, I know, people have their hearts set on this or that school, but let me be clear. If you go to a school that you're just an average student coming out of that school, how much money you owe by the end of it will have a significant impact on whether or not you'll break even. So do your math, right? Is a private school really worth owing 6 figures? I mean, I picked the private school because after its financial packages for me, it was pretty much the same cost as my backup state school. So why not, right? Do you have the same type of choice? Also, as a tangent on cost, by the way, unless you're from a rich family, you must aim to graduate in 4 years, not 5 or 6. That should be no surprise, right? Especially as college cost has far outpaced inflation. So every year is a huge impact, not just on you, but your entire family's financial situation. So please don't do so much socializing to the point where you're increasing your cost basis at college by another 20 to 25%. That's each additional year after 4, by the way. Point number 2, I'm tired of hearing what majors have the highest return on investment, okay? College is not just about translating a major into a job afterward. I stated that I have a BS, that's true, but guess what? I have never had a single job that required that specific degree or Bachelor of Science, okay? So in my experience, the vast majority of jobs, especially outside of the STEM fields, do not require any specific type of degree. After all, if that was the case, what would all the liberal arts degree kids do after they've graduated, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying picking the right major isn't important. What I am saying is that picking the right major shouldn't be based on the proposed jobs afterwards alone, right? If you really cared about a straight up ROI, return on investment, then a trade school is what you probably would lean towards, right? It takes way less time and you can make money much sooner and at a respectable rate these days, right? To me, college is about expanding your horizons, or at least that's what I've been told, right? You're not just in it to get a specific job. You're in it to network, meet people you wouldn't have otherwise. And you know what? At the end of the day, that networking effect is much more likely to get you a job than any specific class that you took. That's reality, right? Why is it that we still read that college graduates do better in life on average? It's because this socialization factor, right? Because of the circle of people that you end up hanging out with. Just being in college should open your vision up to what is possible, comparatively speaking, right? To somebody who's in, for instance, the trade side of the world. Now, point number 3. Almost immediately, I'm going to contradict my previous point a little bit, right? So while I say you shouldn't look at a major as a pure return on investment in the form of a job play, I also want to add to this point that some majors are almost completely useless, right? Like English or any foreign language if you're learning in English, or dance or other creative fields like in the musical department, right? Again, I'm not saying that these fields are not important. I think they very much are important. And if you're utterly in love with those subjects, then by all means go for it. However, go for it with the understanding that you'll always be a starving artist in the most probabilistic scenario. That's all, okay? And, you know, I mentioned languages, right? Because you got to think about it. Like, what if you love French literature? Why not major in French? But you got to keep in mind how many Francophiles there are in the United States and how much a French teacher in high school makes, because that's the only career path that you've basically pigeonholed yourself into. Not to mention there is already an entire country with people really know their French, right? You know, France. I mean, and don't get me started on the English majors. I mean, I love the English language too, right? As an immigrant, I do love it. But isn't this something that you can literally study on your own? I mean, unless you're working on that next great American novel, which is cool, right? There are just some fields like that that leads to no realistic variety of outcomes at all. So choose these at your own peril, right? I mean, hey, these rather, to me, superfluous majors can be great, right? If you're trust them, baby, right? I want to address this idea, by the way. Lots of jobs require a college education. That's true. You know, you see things like college education is a requirement for many jobs. However, if I was a recruiter and I saw someone had a college degree in music, for instance, and my job isn't about music, do you think that I would be impressed? I mean, this is where the specialization can actually work against you, right? There simply aren't enough high-level musician jobs for the amount of people who go to school for that subject, right? So I'm not saying don't do what you love, right? But you better have some other way of making a living that most people just don't have the luxury of, right? So in conclusion, is college still worth it? I mean, I say absolutely for certain types of people, right? And I call these ambitious kids who want to do more than just to be a specialized tradesman or women, right? Again, not knocking on trades. They make a very good money compared to the median salary in this, in this country, and they're certainly worthy careers. But I'm talking about kids who want to affect more than their local neighborhood and perhaps want to explore the world on a global scale, right? Go to college understanding that there's a trade-off between current cost and future possibilities. Do your math on the cost part, right? Don't take out a loan you can't possibly justify. I'll give you a quick example, right? If you owe $100K at the end of your college career, but you know what jobs you can make that'll pay you at least $100K right off graduation, then yes, the cost is an acceptable type of cost. But if you owe $100K as an English major, knowing that literally nothing that requires an English major will make $100K for at least a decade or more, probably 15 years to get to like principal level at a high school, right? Then that calculation should feel very different, shouldn't it? Anyway, I do also agree these days that with so many college graduates around, a college degree definitely doesn't feel like it has the same weight. However, due to that exact degree of inflationary, atmosphere, it's almost a certainty that a degree is needed just to get in the door of any respectable employers these days. So maybe it's a moot point, right, to ask whether a degree is worth it when it's almost a requirement? Of course, now, you could just go the fire route and skip all this formal path crap altogether, right? That's an opinion that I've heard of too, right? Hey, it took me 16 years to get out of the grind, and while I enjoyed most of that journey, What would it have been like if I would have been financially independent, say, in my mid-20s? Well, I never know, but maybe one of you guys can find out and tell me about it. Anyway, comment, like, subscribe, and all that jazz. Or whatever. Cheers. I'll approach it.